Hello, everyone. Chris Chesniak here, founder and CEO of Grandmaster Finance. Today, guys, I've been getting some emails and some calls, some just from some various individuals and people from different dealerships asking me, in my opinion, what is why is it important to have a strong finance manager at their store? I mean, what is the difference between having an average or below and having a strong, and what's the difference between them all? And I have to say that, I think that most dealer principals or general managers for that matter have seen a lot of them, a lot of all three different types, bad, average, and good walk through their, door, or have been at a store or seen a store that has had each of those types. And obviously, I mean, they can range. I mean, you can have someone that is a strong finance person in the regards where they run high numbers, but let's say they're horrible with paperwork, or let's say that they do some unethical or shady things. They, whatever the case may be, you can run strong numbers all day long. But if you're not good with your paperwork, and you can't turn your paperwork in right, you're missing forms, you're not properly disclosing things to customers. Let's say you get customer complaints. Maybe you don't have the best customer service. I mean, there's many things. I mean, as a dealer, it's up to the GM and the dealer group for them to decide what is important to them. Do they want a guy that runs high numbers but has horrible CSI and horrible paperwork, and maybe he's doing things a little, and some gray areas, I guess. I mean, it really depends on the dealer group and the general manager to decide what they want at their store. But believe it or not, there are still good finance people out there in the world. It's just a matter of finding them or finding qualified candidates and training them. It's very hard to take a finance guy that, let's say, has decided to go down, maybe he's got a little bit of experience and has decided to go down the road of saying, he's done some dicey things or whatever. A finance manager that gets stuck in some bad habits, it's very difficult to try to get them, to get out of those habits. It's like trying to teach an old dog, new tricks. It's just one of those things where once they get stuck in going down that path, it's hard for them to get out of it. I mean, not to say it's not possible, but majority of the time, it tends to be the case. So the question is finding the right balance. You need to find the right balance. I said in a previous podcast that what I define as a successful finance manager or a good finance person is someone that is, good, strong numbers, ethical, good with paperwork, can produce, and that does things right and has the right balance and is consistent. That can do all of it as a whole, not just bits or pieces of it. And of course, everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. So some might be, individuals are going to be better in some areas and stronger in some areas and weaker in others. It's, no one's, there's no set science to it, and there's no one's perfect out there. But you do want to try to find someone that is consistent with all of it. There is a way to do it. It can be done. They do exist out there. You just have to either train someone that, that you think has the qualities to do it, or just if you find the guy that can do it and meets and has the right balance between them all, then hang on to him, because having a strong finance person in your store is very important, because it's, they say that F&I is one of the number one revenue sources in a dealership, which is true. But they also can be, they contribute in many other ways. They can protect the liability of the dealership as far as making sure the dealership is not at any risk regarding, paperwork and making sure that they're not doing any deals that could jeopardize or put the dealership in any kind of a risky situation or anything like that. They're there to protect the dealership, and if you don't have someone that knows what they're doing or knows all the laws and knows, what the right way to do things, it can be catastrophic or costly for the dealership depending on the situation. So, I mean, it is important to have a strong finance guy. They also, again, whether you take numbers out of it, having a strong finance guy number-wise, of course, that's the obvious of why you'd want a strong finance guy in the regards of putting up big numbers. You know, high producing, one of the number one revenue generating square footage in the entire building of a dealership. It's that's the obvious part of why it's good to have a strong finance guy. But on the other side of it, as we just discussed, having good paperwork, having clean paperwork, I should say, having a finance guy that can tackle his CITs and has minimal CITs, which is contract in transit for anyone that doesn't know. That's just deals that are hanging out there that are held up in funding for some reason, whether it be a missed signature, missing stipulation, maybe the customer has to do a welcome call. There's many different reasons why it could be, but having a good finance guy that can stay up on that, and that doesn't just let them stack up, that consistently, takes care of them one day at a time. Because they're always going to happen. You just got to make sure that there's a lot of finance guys out there that just let them stack and let them stack and let them stack, and then they think either they're just going to go away, or that someone else is going to clean them up for them, or they don't, or they simply just don't know how to do it, or they're just too lazy to. I don't. It could be a combination of. But having a good finance guy that is on top of his CIT and they can get everything handled promptly, because it's critical for a dealership. I mean, for every contract you have held up, that's how much whatever that dollar amount is. Just keep stacking if however many there are. So and keep that CIT list down. That's important. Obviously, they say one of the best, the strongest attributes, I guess you could say, about a finance manager is that technically they are one of the strongest closers in the dealership. So if you have a customer that's being difficult, and let's say your sales managers aren't available, they're busy, they're tied up, or maybe they tried. Get your finance guy out there. Let him get out there and try to see if he can close them. I mean, they are a good finance person is very skilled at knowing how to talk to people and being able to close. So take advantage of that. That's why it's also important to have one, because if you have a strong finance guy, he not only is going to be giving you numbers, giving you strong finance numbers, but maybe he got you X amount of deals that grossed X amount. And if it wasn't for him going out and being able to close those customers, that's however many deals your store might not have had, or however much gross your store might not have had. So it's something also that makes why it's important to have a good finance person. And obviously the other thing is when it comes down to reputation. I mean, having a good finance person at your store that's reputable, that has good relations with their lenders, with their buyers, you name it, with all their reps, they have a good name in the community and amongst other stores. It's very important because that's a reflection on the dealership. If a dealership is known, let's say a dealer principal or a GM is always known for hiring bad apples, as some might say, and that's seems to be the continuous trend that happens throughout that store, what does it say about that store? There's either a problem, or they don't really care about their reputation or what type of employees they have coming through there. So having a good finance guy in that regard can help in that too, because even though this isn't back like in the old days when it was strictly and solely only lender relations, where it was all about your relationship with your lender and that was it. I mean, that was before all of, submitting deals through Dealertrack and Route 1 and all the different sources. It was about your relationship with your buyer and your lender, and now obviously it's become a lot more computer generated and system generated as far as decision, where it's automatically decision by a computer or a system. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of times where it's still important to have strong relations with your lenders and your buyers, because there's times where they can overturn those decisions. They can get exceptions made. They can get certain things done. Maybe something that a system approval couldn't do, but they could get approved. Or maybe they give you a different way to go. Maybe it's just cut back a little bit more. There's so many variables. It's still important to have good relationships with your lenders, because they can do things for you that, just because a auto system doesn't do. Or even maybe one buyer might look at it and you have a strong relationship with your rep, and your rep might be able to go and push their head buyer, senior buyer, to maybe get a rate exception or get a back end exception or whatever you're trying to accomplish. So I think that's still extremely important these days, regardless of the way of technology these days and the way things are now. It's still important to have. And obviously, if you don't have a strong finance guy that doesn't see the value in having good relationships still, if they don't believe it or they just don't think it's necessary, that's not good for your store, and it's not good. It doesn't help any of your other finance managers, depending on how many you have in your group. You want to be working together as a whole, or as a team, I should say. So that's what I would say are the main important things. Obviously, having a good finance person is someone you can trust too. Someone that, let's say you're a GM or even a dealer principal, you're walking in and you happen to glance over at your finance office and you know that whoever's sitting in that office, you feel good and you feel confident about who's sitting in there and that they're doing the right thing. They're doing things the right way. They're not cutting any corners. They're not doing any dicey moves. You can feel 100% confident that you have someone in there that you can trust, that can deliver, can close, produce the numbers, and that's doing it ethically with full disclosure, and that you don't have to worry about, what liability they possibly are brewing up that you just have lingering in the back of your mind. It's the worst thing worst position to be in if you're a dealer principal or GM, I can tell you that. So it is important to have good finance people. I mean, some dealer principals and GMs, I guess you could say, don't care, but I mean, I guess that's a reflection on them. It is important to have them, and that's with proper training, proper education, and make sure that you are recruiting the right people. So all I can say is that for those that don't value a strong finance manager, I can tell you right now, I'm sure you've seen some nightmare stories of people that have had bad finance managers roll through their store or have witnessed them or heard of them, and look at what kind of disasters they have caused, not only either that store or the dealer group, and it's just not good. So it's good to focus on building strong finance people, always improving in any areas of where they're struggling or where they need improvement on. And that's how you get better. That's how you excel. That's how you get to be the best of your game. So that's pretty much what I have for why it's important to have a strong finance manager in your store. I mean, there's many other reasons, but those are, I would say, the most common. And we go into a little bit more further details in our programs at Grandmaster Finance. So if you have any other questions, please comment below. Questions or comments below. Again, check us out, grandmasterfinance.com. We go over in a lot more depth of it, but I just want to kind of briefly go into the importance of having a strong finance manager at your store. Thanks, guys. Appreciate listening, and look forward to go over the next topic. Stay tuned.